Texas ranked 3, deservingly so. Listen, it is tough to win in college football. I don't buy the fact that, Arkansas was 5-5. Like, that's not a great win for you. Wins are wins, especially in the SEC. You're playing good opponents week to week. They're big, they're fast, they're strong, they're physical. Some of these teams are 4-6 or 5-5. You got to show up ready to play, especially this week. Got Kentucky at home. They almost beat Georgia, lost by 1 point. They've already beat Ole Miss. They can slip up and beat anybody. And so for Texas, you got to be strapped up, ready to play. If I'm talking to the committee and know that Texas is ranked number 3, like why are they ranked 3? Well, I mean, early on in the season, we had to go to Michigan. They just won the national championship. I know they're a new team, a lot of new players, new coach, but you still have to go to Ann Arbor and you still got to beat Michigan, and they handled them pretty easily. We got beat by Georgia at home by 15. That stung. We didn't play good at all. Look, every week is going to be a challenge, and every week's going to be a grind. And I think this Texas football team is becoming hardened week to week to that, experiencing that. It's the first time in conference. But ranked 3, deservingly so. We started high. The expectations are high. We haven't played great every week, but our defense is strong and our fronts are strong. Our offensive line is much better than people are giving them credit for. Week to week, they struggle with a few things, but they're solid. I'll put them up with anybody in the country. Then you got your defensive line who's playing really good. Your secondary hasn't been tested a whole bunch. We've played some backup quarterbacks, Florida. There's other teams that didn't, have all their guys. And so, look, I understand where everybody's talking about the strength of schedule and we hadn't really played anybody. I think we learned a lot from the Georgia game. I think this team learned where they are, where they sit, how hard they have to work. Their goals are all still in front of them, but they got to play better. And I think slowly we're going to see that as you go on. Look, the college football playoff, regardless of if we stay at 3 or not, we're going to be in the top 12. The college football playoff is about playing your best football late. And I certainly think Texas is in a position to play their best ball late. They've got Kentucky this week. They've got Texas A&M looming on the schedule, which will be a fun environment, a great game. It hadn't been played in, over a dozen years. Like this, that is going to be awesome. And the winner of that basically has a paved way to the SEC championship. And then at that point, you never know. You're playing for a bye. So I like where Texas sits. I think they're deserving of being number 3. I don't think that's going to change, but they got to play their best ball moving forward. I think the challenge for UT this week is making this game the game, not looking at next week to A&M. Everybody in the world is talking about that game because if Texas A&M beats Auburn and we beat Kentucky, whoever wins that game is going to the SEC championship, which is awesome. I mean, what better position do you want to be in if you're Texas A&M or if you're Texas? But this week is going to be about no distractions. We're focused on Kentucky. They have to be able to circle the wagons and say, I don't care what all the fans are talking about. I don't care what all the students are talking about. Like next week is going to be crazy. We got to win this week. We got to focus in. I think they get it, right? They got punched in the mouth at home against Georgia, lost by 15, right? But they've slowly circled back. They used the bye weeks effectively. They beat Florida real handily, blew them out in the first half. They figured out a way at Arkansas to not play great, but in the end, with the ball in their hands, they marched down the field and put the game away. And so you're seeing steps of progress by Texas. And I think the next step is saying, look, we cannot be distracted for next week. Kentucky's a good football team. We have to show up. We got to play our best because right now, when you're talking about late November and into December, this is where the best teams separate themselves and they don't get distracted by all this. And they put their best foot forward and they go out and dominate like they should. And then there's next week. And so that's the mentality the Texas Longhorns have to have, right now because everything's in front of them.